Thank you, Sven. Chapter 9. Too short? I held the door to my suite for Bretta. That was not pure politeness, though I was dying to see her walk through the regular door. My expectation was more than met. Not only did she bend her neck, but her knees as well. Still, the move looked amazingly graceful and, somehow, sexy. Wow, what a wonderful hideout! Again, she was smiling down at me. I just couldn't get used to the way she did it. The smile was so cool and warm at the same time, and very unusual, due to Bretta's incomparable height. Let's see what music you have here. Oops, not sure I have any. I didn't expect accommodation of this sort, so I didn't take any CDs with me. Shall we try the radio? I pressed the power button. Not so fast. Bretta came closer to the cabinet housing the Bose sound system and extended her arm above my head. You may have more than you know. What is she talking about? Is that a hint, or? Ah, that. She retrieved a few CDs from a shelf located a little higher than my eye level, so I had failed to notice them. Our cheerfulness didn't last, however. They were all classical and could have come in handy, but only after what I had in mind, not before, so we turned the radio on. In a couple of minutes, we started feeling disappointed again. All stations transmitted Japanese news and music. One of them seemed even to be broadcasting the Kabuki theater, which was really exciting but couldn't accompany slow dancing. Bad luck. I tried to encourage her not to leave. Would you take a cocktail instead? I think I have a better idea. Lisa always carries a Walkman with her, and she likes romantic ballads. Just wait here, I'll be right back with a couple of her CDs, okay? She was already holding the door handle, ready to stoop. How gorgeous she was, with her legs covering almost 2/3 of the door height. Wait a minute. I didn't have time to finish my thought, but my mouth did. Remember, you said I must see you in your heels? Well, you saw me in heels only 2 hours ago. Did you like what you saw, by the way? You were stunning in that dress, and still are, but I didn't see your footwear because of it and couldn't judge your tallness. You were too far from me on the runway. Then you have to believe me, I was really, really tall. She laughed and pulled the door open. Bretta? Yes? Could you please bring those shoes over? I'd really like to see you in heels. She shut the door and took 2 steps forward, stopping inches from me. Again, I couldn't see her face, no matter how hard I tried. She put her arms on my shoulders, bent down to look me in the eye, and asked, "Do you have a full-sized mirror over here?" I guess so. Seeing the two of us through the looking glass, that was exactly what I was about to ask, but didn't dare to. With shaking hands, I opened the wardrobe that stretched all the way from the floor to the ceiling. On the inner side of the door was a nice, huge, high-quality mirror. Bretta stood erect as she gently pulled me closer. Look, Nick, she pointed at the reflection. Your head is at my waist. Am I too short for you? It took me a few seconds to persuade my mind to concentrate on her question rather than on the view. The comparison was incredible. Was I dreaming again? What I saw was even more stunning than what I'd fancied several hours earlier. Bretta was taller than I had imagined her, and she was there, in the flesh. In flats. Well, I must admit, you don't look too short from this perspective. I resorted to a joke. Not very successfully, I guess. I would just like to see you from the perspective of an average Japanese guy. Her look in the mirror grew foxy. Either you're seriously sick, which is bad, or really in love with tall women, which is not that bad, she exclaimed. Or both, she added and left the room at once. I watched her getting out and brain-marked the doorframe at the level of her shoulders. It turned out to be quite an easy task, as Bretta's shoulders were absolutely even with the crossbar, at least from my point of view. When the lock clicked, I rushed to the door and raised my hand. I did reach the crossbar, yet it was so high above my head, I could hardly believe it. I moved a chair closer and climbed on it. Now I could touch the crossbar with the top of my head, but only on tiptoes. I couldn't quite comprehend the situation. Standing on a chair, plus tiptoeing, an average-sized man could only level his height with a young woman's shoulders. It can't be true. But it was. True, and I knew it was, and this taller-than-life blonde bombshell was going to return any minute, so I moved the chair back in its place and hurried to the restroom. Hello? Nick? Are you in? That sweet voice with a familiar charming accent woke me up to reality. Yes, Bretta, just a second. I stepped out of the bathroom and that was it. I was killed. Murdered. I couldn't move. Let alone speak. A dozen yards away, with their back towards me, were they. Legs. They couldn't be described, they couldn't be touched, they could only be adored. And I was standing there for what seemed like eternity, and adored them. Their owner knew definitely well how to outline their length, as if their length needed to be outlined. Bretta had changed. Now, instead of that wedding dress, she was wearing tight black capri trousers, stretched to their limits to accommodate these unimaginably well-shaped, endless poles of femininity. They were breathtakingly sexy. With those 8-inch spikes on, Bretta's knees seemed to be located quite a bit higher than my crotch, and her perfectly rounded bottom higher than my shoulders. Bretta, how tall are your legs? The question went out of my mouth all by itself, without any assistance from my brain. She turned around and saw me lean against a wall. Nick, are you all right? Never better, Bretta. Just how long are these two? You mean legs, she giggled. Well, my inseam is 121 centimeters, plus the shoes. I think it's about 4 feet and 7 inches now. Her inseam is less than a foot shorter than the whole of me. My. May I touch them? Again, it was not me who blurted the question, but somebody, or something, inside my boiling head. Of course, she laughed, but not before we start dancing. Look, I've got a CD here full of nice sweet tunes. Do you think we will be able to dance with your legs as tall as I am? I began to regain my personality. Well, I guess you like them, so why not give it a try? I'm sure you can find a way to dance with them. They will be pleased too. She put her left leg forward. She was enjoying the impact her looks had on me. Besides, you promised to be a gentleman. And gentlemen always do what ladies want. And I want to dance. She inserted the CD into the hi-fi, then bent down to take my right hand, and tried to put it on her hip once more. Failed. It was now much too high for me to keep the position. I lowered my hand a little. She didn't seem to mind. I moved it a little lower. She didn't say a word. Finally, with my right hand embracing her left thigh, and my left hand resting an inch above her left knee, I heard her giggle and ask, "Are you comfortable at last?" You bet. It was true. I felt more than comfortable, slowly dancing with a partner beyond my wildest dreams. Her fingers tenderly caressed my left cheek, as she couldn't reach any lower to put her hand on my shoulder. And her left hand was flying high above me, drawing the curves of pleasure in mid-air. Occasionally I saw Bretta's face in the mirror. She looked happy too. Do you like it? I just wanted to hear that from her. Sure I do, her blue eyes sparkled. I wish, of course, the ceiling was a little higher. I'm worried about crashing into one of these lamps. I glanced up. Bloody hell! The ceiling was about 10 feet high, but Bretta's head seemed to be level with those beautiful crystal chandeliers. What a girl! Poor girl! Suddenly, I realized just how difficult it must have been for her to use public transport, or aeroplanes, or to go to those charming English pubs, many of which had really low ceilings and staircases, low even for me. The next chapter is 10. Sofa, chair, and beyond.